But the coin that I added to the portfolio today is called vEmpire.
And they are the largest decentralized metaverse investment organization in the world.
Hello, everybody, and what a lovely day it is. Let you kick off, and I'll do some button tapping in the background. You know what comes after Ruby and Qcoin? When Binance. GAGA, that's good afternoon. You hear a lot of GNs and a lot of GMs, but not a lot of GAs. We have, I believe, two guests with us today from a protocol and a token called Spume. They launched back in September. Anyone who was around in that market knows wasn't the best time for a launch, but the protocol itself and the multiple aspects to it, including music, NFTs, and working sort of with that side of it. In particular, many facets, including real revenue and real yield, which is definitely on topic in terms of the current market. So I think I've got Silas and Bo to my knowledge. There we go. I was right. We're in. Oh my God! Look at this! Look at this! Like
look at us.
We're like a boy band. Honestly, you should have definitely said something about this, because we actually looked like we were off to do a music video.
I know. We got to get some points for coming on here matching. Like, come on, look at Silas and I.
Upset I didn't have the hood.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry.
True, I have been promised this, but so far nothing. How are you guys then?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good. Thanks for having us on, Dom.
Welcome. I did give a little bit of a short intro on your behalf, but do you want to introduce yourselves and the protocol, what you guys do, and how it all started? I'll let either of you take the lead.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably let Silas do a lot of the talking today, just because I'm a little under the weather, but maybe I can take this question and kind of warm up too. Like, so Silas and I, we go, like, I do most of the operation stuff. Silas, he's the head of all the technology and the development. We started this like over a year ago now, which is just crazy to even talk about. But a year ago, started as basically just a decentralized NFT marketplace with some kickers. And now we're just in a full-blown 5 business revenue model type of project here, which is awesome. But it's developed way out of our hands, and we have had to kind of learn as we go. But it's a cool place where we're at now, and like bringing businesses on chain and helping them use crypto in a daily fashion that's organized and neat and makes sense. And we're on a cool path. So Silas could probably add a lot more there, but that's kind of my take on it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I think that was a super good little overview. It's hard marketplace, but yeah, now we're on a cool route, and to sum it up, right, we're focused on bringing businesses on chain and working with them, and I'm sure we're going to get more into what we exactly do with those businesses here in a little bit.
Fair enough. How and which businesses are you? Is there a target, or what is the, I assume, tokenization model, whether that be sort of by actual tokens, or, well, when I say actual tokens like ERC20, or is that primarily through like 721 and sort of the NFT model? Which sort of industries are you targeting in particular, or are there any that stand out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people talk about tokenization, right? And I think it's like a really brought up topic and a really big topic, and there's absolutely a time and a place for tokenization, and that initially is kind of what we started out, was like, let's start tokenizing everything. But the industries that we chose them for a few specific reasons. We chose them because we think that the technology that we already have right now on the blockchain, with the standards that we have for ERC 721 as NFTs, right, and even ERC 20, right, as tokens, is very, very powerful, right? And we're like right on the cusp of having a lot of really we're right on the cusp of having exactly what we need to swap out a lot of the things that we already have in our daily lives that are kind of frustrating and kind of annoying to deal with, right? So we chose a couple specific industries that we think that with very minor tweaking, right, we can come in and change the way that they operate by introducing the technology that we basically already have completely on the blockchain, right? So the primary industries that we chose to target are what we call blockchain commerce, which is the transactions of businesses to consumers and consumers to businesses, right? And we can kind of get into exactly how we're doing that. And we can get into exactly how we're doing it for all the different industries I'm going to name, right? Which would be music. Music is another big one, ticketing, and then real estate. So those are kind of the four big pillars or the four big industries that we're targeting. Yes, they're very broad industries, but as we'll get into it, I think there's a really nice way that they all connect.
I think somebody, or was it maybe something on LinkedIn just that I commented on? Maybe they didn't ask my opinion. I just decided to stick it in there as I often do. But anything, I think the question or the post was the applications of blockchain and where they can be used. And my comment was any business where ownership, authenticity, or any sort of originality can almost certainly have blockchain implemented as a better solution to what is already existing, which is true because I think the problem that we have mainly is even the word itself, tokenization. It lessens it. When I think of like tokens in the real world, I think of like, you know, like playing a board game with like some beans, or like what's that game where you press down on the frogs and then they jump. But that sort of thing, or like those Alf-like things that they use, pogs. That's the thing that I was thinking about. But yeah, I think it lessens the words, but we're getting the flush out of this bear market where hopefully we do get rid of the stereotypes of, you know, monkey JPEGs and Ponzi's, and hopefully with that flush out we can move on to the actual tech.
No, it's absolutely true. It's honestly it's both terrible, but kind of, and this might sound bad, a little bit exciting to see the absolute like desire for the JPEG NFTs to dwindle just a little bit, right? Like it's terrible, but it's almost a little good because it leads the way. It allows room, right, for the different avenues for NFTs, right? Like you talk about tokenization, and you said like any businesses that have some kind of ownership representation, right? I mean that is every business everywhere, right? Genuinely, right? There is some kind of good transfer or some kind of ownership transferred, right? That can be represented in some way. Now, should every industry be represented on the blockchain? I mean, probably not, right? Like a coffee shop, right? We don't need to tokenize coffee. That for like a cup of coffee, honestly, probably isn't going to have a lot of benefit from doing something like that, right? But you know, situations with larger physical property, there is some immediate and clear benefits from having representation on the blockchain and ownership represented on the blockchain, right? When you can link ownership of a physical good with something on the blockchain, you end up in some really, really cool scenarios, right? And we have a lot of this technology built around this idea with the ERC 721 NFTs and even 1.5 NFTs of when we have ownership on the blockchain of some good, right? Some good that has value, you can do a lot of things with it. You can use lending protocols, right? You can get flash loans with protocols, right? You can trade and buy them securely, right? Like we have all these pieces built in, which are really powerful pieces. So the question, you know, at least in our mind, with Spume and stuff, is how can we extend this now? How can we start linking physical property and really, you know, what physical goods do we want to try to link and represent with these NFTs, right? That's more of the question, right? Like the way how to do things, how to trade them, how to buy them, all of these different pieces, the lending stuff that you could do with them. I mean, yes, there's more you can build on top of it, right? But there's so much groundwork already laid down around them. It's more about bringing physical goods now, at least that have value, to represent them as NFTs.
Yeah.
And with the or you going to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just gonna add something too. It's like like kind of what, like, just to add to what Sal said, it's like we chose these industries not just like, randomly. We didn't just throw pins on a board, but we chose the industries that we did, like music and real estate, and like our merchant processing system, not just because they were what we were necessarily most comfortable with, but these industries, these are what we saw huge opportunity in, right? So that means there's like a lot of intermediaries, or there's a lot of authenticity or a lot of trust that goes into the mechanisms of the buying and selling, or royalty systems or whatever it is in these different industries. So we chose them very strategically, and then we'll kind of expand out from there. But we also chose them because we started off as this tokenization protocol, and we wanted to tokenize things like real estate and music. It makes sense. But then, like what Silas is saying, is we don't want to just tokenize things to tokenize things, right? Like, it has to make sense for the buyer and the seller, or at least for one of them. And so when you talk about like a coffee shop, probably doesn't make sense. A merchant processing system, though, where people can pay with crypto and there's no KYC and it's streamlined and it's cheap, that might make sense, right? So it's like this overarching net where we're giving businesses and industries the help that they need, or the service that they need specifically, not just trying to blanket them with tokenization just to do it. I think that's something important to know.
Yeah, anything that has anything that used to be represented by, or is still represented by, a deed should be on chain. Like, there is literally, in my mind, there is no question. The only reason that it's not already done or adopted is purely just lack of knowledge, because there is literally like no basis for why you would not do that. It's just a gap between people knowing how blockchain works, because blockchain as a technology is associated with crypto as like, that's like the biggest thing. People don't associate the technology with anything other than crypto and NFTs, which in itself really doesn't do blockchain as a technology justice. A lot of people don't actually know this, but so blockchain and cryptographic technology was initially a protected technology under the Defense Department of the US because of its like, I wouldn't say because of its revolutionary properties, but because of the importance of the technology. It was actually a secret, like you couldn't release it. It was under the rights of the Defense Department, but they actually released it because any sort of tech and software, because it is written, they came at it from a free speech point of view, as in because it's a written language, therefore they went for that and they failed. But then they came at it and they got it released based on Second Amendment. The right to bear arms released cryptographic technology from the government, which is just goes to show, they know full well the power of the blockchain and what it, all of the utilities that it has, because they try to protect it as a secret for a long time. So yeah, there's a lot of applications that even are probably beyond like our comprehension, because you don't try and keep it a secret unless there's a hell of a lot about it. Here we go. We've got a comment in the thing now. Someone wrote a book about cryptography and blockchain and nearly got arrested for it. I'd be interested to know in what year, because the earliest I read a book from the 90s that talked about the future of cyber currencies. But yeah, it's going to be revolutionary. Just we need to get past the hurdle of monkey JPEGs. It even sounds ridiculous to say. I also I mentioned on the real yield part, which I think is important. And I know that you have a sort of staking. Well, you have staking, but it doesn't work in the usual concept, or at least in part. Do you want to let people know where they can, buy the token and then obviously once they have it, stake it, and how the real revenue side of it works.
Yeah, totally. Right. So, we're traded on like Gate, Obi, Mexi. You can go to some Uniswap. What separates our, and you can stake through our site. If you go to Spume.io, there's some links that'll take you where you want to go. What's different that our staking, what's different about our staking, I guess, than normal staking, right? Is that the value of our token, or at least the value that we try to assign to our token, right? That might not be the right way to put it. When you stake our token, right, we reward stakers with transaction fees and whatnot that go through our ecosystem, right? So we're talking about building these, like we're talking about blockchain music, right, and like music as NFTs on the blockchain, right? So when that DApp is completely finished out, there'll be a number of ways people can get revenues through it, but Spume will get revenues through it or rewards through it, right? One of those will be people minting their NFTs, or they're minting their music as NFTs, right? For instance, that's one small route, right? That's a fee that goes to the Spume ecosystem that's going to be distributed to stakers, right? When we talk about blockchain commerce, we talk about businesses transacting with consumers and those transactions going through the Spume ecosystem, right? We're talking about people buying things in the real world and fees from that going to consumers on the blockchain, right? So potentially, like, one of the things we should emphasize when we're doing staking, right, is that it's not inflationary staking, right? We're not rewarding you with Spume for stakes. Rewards for Spume do not go back to Spume stakers. That's not the idea here. The idea here is that you stake Spume and you get a chunk of what happens in the Spume ecosystem now, not in the form of our token, right? In the form of WETH, right? So the native token of, well, the wrapped native token of Ethereum, right? So that's that, and there's a lot more info about our staking and whatnot if you go check it out on our site. But that is kind of, I think, what separates our staking from potentially the traditional staking.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, just to add in here too, Dom. It's like with vEmpire, like I've kind of like learned about what you guys do over there too. It's super cool, but like the business model, it like makes sense to me, right? Like if you explain like vEmpire's business model, it's like, okay, we're taking lands, we're developing them, and then like that adds value to things, and like that value is in some way passed on to, vEmpire token holders. And I know you guys have a lot more going on than just that, but it's like, okay, we're taking something, we're improving it. People are going to see that value, and that intrinsic value is paid for by other people, not just the token holders. Like, that's what we're trying to do at Spume too. It's like we're creating business models, we're creating revenue streams because we're giving businesses a way to make more money, to save money, to do their transactions faster, cheaper, better, with more authenticity and security. And because we're bringing these, developments and technologies, people want to pay for those luxuries of time and speed and security, and they pay for those. And the people who believe in what we're building and see the value in it, they're going to share in the revenue that our business models and revenue streams make. So it's a cool concept. We thought it made a lot of sense. Definitely unorthodox and weird, though, if you explain it in crypto. But if you take it outside of crypto, it's a lot like you buying shares of a company, like a technology company, where you believe in what they're building and the value that they're bringing, and you get rewarded for that belief, especially early on. Like right now, when we do drop like rewards on the stake pools, like some of these guys make massive amounts of rewards because you can buy a lot of tokens and stake them and be a majority holder. So unorthodox, but we think it's cool, and especially in the long run, we think it's going to add a lot of value to everyone who is.
Yeah, we had, I remember in our Ethereum staking pool, we had somebody come in and just drop 500 ETH into it in just one transaction. And obviously when we were sending rewards to the pool, and our Ethereum staking pool has, like, because it's our effective generalist pool where like tons and tons of our smaller investments are held, it did really well, and it's yielding like 12%. So this whale was just getting like huge amounts of like ETH back as secondary awards. He gets VEMP as well, but yeah, it's crazy how I saw this article that just made me laugh, and it was talking about this new concept of real yield, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like how Ponzi does it make us sound as an industry that we call like it's not a new concept of real yield, it's just yield. Like everybody else understands it as just normal, like, and we're like this crazy concept. Did you know you can actually earn real profits? But it's like I think I saw written in like one of these articles about a flywheel as like a scheme, or like a turn wheel as a scheme, where when everything's going well, these sort of Ponzi protocols, obviously the buy pressure means that the token value goes up, which means that the yield goes up, because you're paying out the same amount of tokens. But if the USD value goes up, then the percentage APR goes up. But it's a positive feedback loop, like any Ponzi, buy, and it goes this way. But then as it starts to unwind, then the thing just quickly goes out of control in the exact same way, which is exactly what happened with like FTX. And that's why the crazy concept of real yield is so important, because it holds up in a bear market, which people don't realize. And if you look at any of these like DeFi protocols that have crazy inflation, it's the exact same thing. Look at OHM or any of these, like, when the going is good, it's okay. But once it goes bad, it's just, straight down. So, I mean, inflation as a concept, in the current monetary system, there's a reason why we have it. But we can see what happens when it gets out of control. It's not bad to have an inflationary protocol. It's just bad to just where it's out of control. I mean, that's why our token is locked over like 20 years in terms of emissions. And that isn't just so that people feel safe. It's so that we don't have more than like single digit inflation, because otherwise, inevitably, if you are incentivizing people to give you funds by giving them your token, what do they do when they get given a token and they get given rewards? They sell it. So there's a fine balance of what you can use and attract people onto it for, and then using those in order to produce enough profits, which will counteract. But yeah, our crazy real yield things might actually be the norm. Fingers crossed. That is the dream. But for anybody watching, I can see a lot of comments and questions coming in anyway, but please do ask them and we will revisit at the end. But you have seen in your marketing that you have this phrase, the largest holder-owned tokenization protocol. Is there like another one that isn't holder-owned, or what is the overall concept behind that?
Silas, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I could talk about our concept behind that, right? Our whole like kind of goal, right, is to be holder owned, right? Like our goal is to be decentralized, right? We didn't come in here with the goal of rebuilding a centralized process of any kind, right? Which is why when you look at the way that we've built any of the systems that we have that are built already, right? Like our marketplace DApp, right? Or our coming up blockchain commerce DApp, right? The way that those contracts have been structured, the way that the contracts have been structured, the way that our openness, the way that we approach things, the transparency to the token holders, right? And then, the way that rewards are being pushed back onto the token holders directly, right? Like on the marketplace, for instance, right? Like we don't take a cut. It all goes straight back to the token holders, right? Which things like we are a token holder, right? Like that's also how we make revenue, right? Like we have locked team tokens, right? But the point is that we're not this intermediary middleman that's taking and bleeding out cuts before funds are sent to token holders. that's kind of the goal, and how we structure ourselves, right? Is this idea that we want to be transparent to the token holders. The token holders are the end, basically, receivers of everything that goes through the marketplace. Yeah, and coincidentally, I mean, we also are token holders, which is how we end up, not losing all of our money and being able to fund ourselves and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from and the idea behind it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Like how crypto in general like works. As in, I think in fact, I think it was Jake again who told me this, that like back when he worked for his old company, like people would celebrate like the like where the company had like if the CEO like did well with the company, people would celebrate it. But like in crypto, people any amount of tokens owned by the team, nobody sees it as a because for those who buy shares, when like directors buy shares, they have to announce to the market. Same with when they sell shares, and it's always seen as bullish when founders own their own shares. Obviously, skin in the game. But in crypto, we just don't see it like that. Like as in, like people expect you as a founder to just start it out of the kindness of your heart and like not own any of it, no profit, nothing. Like just every token has to be a charity. I don't think people realize that it is good to make sure that you are fully aligned. You want people to be sharing in success. But again, I guess it's mainly another thing that comes down to the sort of immaturity in the market, is that people don't think like that. But that's mainly because they've had bad experiences. Like if I'm being nice, sometimes they're just outright just I'll be careful. Sometimes they're just outright unreasonable. But yeah, I think it's good to have that sort of fully aligned, and everything's on chain at the end of the day. So there's no reason why not. And in the normal market, it is seen as a bullish thing to have that. So yeah, fingers crossed. Just like our real yield concept, people will get more reasonable as well.
Yeah, the only thing, I guess, the thing the way that I rationalize it in my mind, right, is like when I'm working with somebody, right, I want to be in a position where we both want to win, right, and I can clearly see like why we're both interested in succeeding. That makes me feel really good about the situation because I have confidence that I'm like, I know why this guy's interested in doing this here. I know why we're working together. I know why we both want to succeed. And it's the same thing here, right? Like we as the Spume team, right? Like we don't win without our token holders winning, right? And they know that, right? They know that we make the rewards that we get are the same rewards that they get. It's transparent. It's done. That's one of the reasons why we like it and why we kind of push for it.
Yeah.
And also I agree with you guys on that.
Well, I feel like we make that like really clear too. Like we're not saints, right? Like we like building cool stuff. We like taking care of our community and our people. But that at the end of the day, like people can't expect us to just come and work like 12-hour days for a year and not have some sort of upside, right? So like we tell people straight up, like, we all need each other and we're building these business models that make sense. But at the end of the day, like we're definitely we are going to make money when you guys make money, right? It's not like, oh, this is just a charity, like Dom was saying, and like we're here to just build stuff and everyone else can just take it all. It's like, no, it's not reasonable, right? It's not reasonable. So we are like very upfront and tell people like we are working really hard. We're not taking salaries and we're killing ourselves for that end goal because we know we can reach it. And like Silas is saying, I think it gives people a weird sense of security and trust when we tell them like, hey, we don't make money unless the tokenization, like the protocol, produces revenue. So it's a cool place to be in. And I think it's helped us avoid a lot of flack too, where all of our stuff is locked up,
I funnily enough, I had a conversation with somebody who came into our chat. Well, I say a conversation. I had an argument. Somebody came into our chat and basically said, "Oh, I just purchased and the pump on the price today was me. So immediately I get like, all right. Funny enough, like we were literally, I think we were up 2% on the day. And then anyway, came in and said effectively when the marketing isn't good enough, etc., etc. Bear in mind, just said he came in today and bought today. Said that, and then I said, "What are your ideas?" And they said, "Well, you could give everybody stickers and they could put them on their cards." I was like, "Wow, you're a genius." But not to demean, but as in they're saying, just a lot of people don't understand that there is a certain level, and we actually believe it or not, but we push hard on marketing. We spend at least like 50k a month, and that's in the bear market. We used to spend hundreds of thousands a month in the bull market, but some people just do not realize that not everybody, and like you mentioned at all, like the aim is to be as decentralized as possible, and if possible, to become completely decentralized by the end of it. But you don't start out any startup or business. It's very, very rare. I know like one or two that have ever launched decentralized and forever been decentralized. You start centralized because you are building something and a protocol, and almost certainly you can't raise, this is crypto, everyone's struggling to try and raise money, but it's like blockchain games versus normal games. They take like 5 years in the real world, but they've got tens of millions of budget to work with. In our world, like they've got millions and they have to launch it in parts because they've got to like get certain hurdles done and get, show stuff to VCs, etc. But people discount the fact that when you have an earlier stage token, if the business and the founder cannot continue to work on it, then it's done, like forever, like that. It's a business. And this person was basically saying to spend like we're in a bull run, in a bear run, and it's not sustainable. The most important thing to any new token is to have a sustainable business. And any normal business in like a recession doesn't go out and just throws hundreds of thousands when customers aren't there. And in crypto, it's the equivalent, that you don't have as many eyes on it in a bear market, because as much as everyone should buy low, sell high, they don't. They buy high and they sell low. Everybody loves to chuck money in and get eyes on under green candles. So because of that, it's exactly the same as in a business. You cannot spend hundreds of thousands marketing to people who don't have money to spend. But it's just getting that concept across to people. It's just don't understand it. But yeah, I mean, that is hopefully, and fingers crossed, the attitude that will eventually get flushed out by this bear market, because people with that attitude and that expectation will always leave disappointed, because hopefully there's enough sensible people to counteract that. Fingers crossed, crypto never fails to amaze. Don't even know how I got onto that wrong.
That's good.
But I feel better. I feel better.
That's what we're here for. Let it out. Let it out. We are totally with you.
I've got the boy band to support me.
If we get one more win marketing message, we might just go on a diatribe too. So, man.
I see, and this is another thing that I see quite often, and perhaps you can tell us the difference. But you guys are wanting to implement and have a credit card or a card anyway. Would you be able to tell people a little bit more about that and how that's going to work in terms of, I presume there's like some sort of awards, etc.
Yes, I could talk about that a little bit. So blockchain commerce is the big thing that we are kind of working on right now. The big thing that we're facilitating. There's a lot of things that we're working on, and honestly, they kind of all line up in parallel. And I can talk maybe a little bit later if you guys are interested in how everything intertwines and works. But right now, like the big thing that we're focusing on development wise and marketing wise and business relationship wise is what we call blockchain commerce. And it's a pretty simple idea. Really, we are enabling businesses and consumers in the same way to spend and receive crypto in what we call a safe and secure and highly manageable and trackable way, right? So like we know we've been working in a number of different businesses together for quite a few years now, and Bo's got a really good grasp with a ton of local businesses and a bunch of business knowledge and a bunch of areas, right? And they all kind of suffer from the same thing, right? Like we know a lot of people who want to accept crypto payments, right? But when they do, it's like how do we track our crypto payments? Like, how do we receive our crypto payments? Like how do we update and manage our inventory when we take crypto payments? How do we do refunds, right? Like it gets super, super, super messy. And it's not really, there's not like a great clear way to do it for businesses, right? Like that's the issue. And then on the consumer side of thing too, it's like, okay, I want to pay a business to, I want to buy a coffee or I want to buy a car or something. And it's like the business will be like, all right, well, this is our Bitcoin address or whatever. Here's our USDC address or something, right? So make sure you entered it right, like 25 times, right? Send a test USDC over, wait a couple minutes, then send, the rest of the USDC over. It's not a good system. It's not, and it's not scalable, right? It's just not scalable. It's never going to happen. It's never going to work in the real world, which is why we end up with a lot of things where it's like, crypto.com and their cards, right? Where it's like, okay, guys, stake $100,000 worth of CRO, and then you can get this debit card that you can fill with crypto from your account and you can go spend, but you have to fill it with crypto. So it's not really your crypto anymore. You're not really spending your crypto. You're just filling up a debit card then. Right. Or like there's a bunch of other projects where it's like, okay, guys, this is not what we want. Right. What we want businesses to have a way to accept USDC safely. And we want to be able to pay businesses in USDC safely. Right. So we have this blockchain commerce system. And I'm been talking for a minute. So I'm just going to say this time like 30 seconds real quick. There's just two really simple parts. Underlining, there's a lot going on. On the surface, there's two simple parts. There's businesses who have an iPhone, iPad, whatever, laptop, right? And they sign up with us. It takes them 10 seconds as long as they have a MetaMask. And they have a little portal right there where they can charge users certain amounts or they can request users to pay them certain amounts. And then you have users, and they've got this nice little web interface. There's a nice little web interface, which we're going to build our own wallet soon, eventually on the roadmap. But that'll be later. So for right now, they have a nice little web interface. They can connect their MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Coinbase Wallet soon, whatever, right? They see how much USDC they have. They can see all the payments they've done to businesses. They can request refunds for those payments. And right now, we're kind of the arbiters in the middle, but the goal is to make that a decentralized process because it's all happening on smart contracts, right? And we can set up any smart contract to handle it. So we can set up a DAO to handle, arbitration and whatnot. Really cool idea. On top of this system is this idea of the crypto card. And the crypto card is really cool. What it lets businesses do is it lets users enable businesses who are approved by us to make auto charges. Now, it sounds very dangerous. In reality, it is not very dangerous. Why? Because any charges that go through our system, any charges that a business can make, sit in escrow for 3 days and are only released when we, the arbiter, right, release it. Now, once again, we can set this up to be a decentralized process in the future. What's cool about this is what's cool about it, is it doesn't have to be, you don't have to enable auto charges for every business that's approved. You can enable auto charges for specific businesses. And what it opens it up to is systems where you have things like subscriptions with Netflix, right? Like you can say like, hey, I want Netflix to subscribe and they'll auto charge $12 from my account per month. And I approve them to do that. I can sign it. I can say that I approve them to take this transaction. It's great. It's a cool system. In the real world, and what we're working on right now, what you can do right now, we have businesses that we're onboarding. The system is set up and in place. It will be finalized in the next 2-3 weeks. And we'll show some announcements and do it and demonstrate in real life. You can go to businesses, you can take out your crypto card, you can say, hey, I want to pay with Spume crypto. They scan your crypto card, they charge you, you see it right there on your phone, you're good. So that is our version. I should clarify. So when we talk about, we don't have a credit card. We have what we call a crypto card. It's not fiat to crypto or crypto to fiat. It's all enabling crypto in the real world without any intermediaries. It's just a safe, secure way to take crypto payments. Sorry for the long-winded answer. I hope that clarifies though what we're doing with that.
I think you were definitely gave a lot of information. There should be no doubt about that. If that's a short story, then I want to know. I don't think we've got time. I think it's a whole new episode for the long story. It was 2 things apparently. That whole thing you said it was 2 things.
Well, there's two sides to it, right? You got the user and the business side, and there's a lot going on between it. But in the end, it's users paying businesses with crypto, and the business accepting crypto, right? That's what we want to emphasize. And we went back and forth. We thought about this, right? Like there are ways, right? We could act as an OTC desk, and we could take USDC, and then we could give the business fiat, right? Like we could do that, but we don't like that. We think that right now that's the easy thing to do. It is 100% the easy way to do it. It's what businesses like. I'm not going to name them, but there's other businesses doing it, right? But that's not the future, right? That's building off of the existing technology that we have. In the like we talk about, like you talked earlier about, like any business. Like there's no reason for any deed, right, ever to not be on the blockchain. I think that's probably true, right? And there's no reason, right, that we would be taking payments in USDC or USDT and saying, all right, now let's transfer this to fiat. Why? Right? Why are we acting as a intermediary that would transfer it to fiat? Right? There's super easy ways for the businesses to transfer to fiat. We'll help the business transfer to fiat if they really want to, right? But what does the consumer want? And what's safest for what's the best outcome for the businesses and the consumer, right? It's a transparent world where we can see what businesses are transacting, how much businesses are spending, how much consumers are spending, right? Like it's an awesome world. And of course, you can leave names off of things, and you can be transparent. You can be hidden behind nameless wallets and stuff like that's fine. There's still consumer protections and consumer hiding, right? But it is this transparent, open world with safe, secure payments where everything is managed on the blockchain, and there's not these intermediaries with fiat and dealing with fiat. That was kind of my answer for why we're doing it, I guess.
Well, fine, fair enough. In this question is sort of important on the multiple aspects that have been discussed, which is looks interesting. Is this all developed already? So what is currently out, and what of everything we've spoken about today, what can people do right now by logging onto the website?
So we actually have finished all the technology behind it, which is awesome. We have not released it publicly. So it's all parts of it have been put out there publicly, and we're currently onboarding businesses. We've got like 20 or so sign up right now. We're working on a couple exciting deals that we can't talk about that would greatly potentially. I'm not going to say anymore. We're working on some cool things that are really cool.
Give alpha. Give
alpha.
No, we're working on some cool stuff. The technology is done for it. Yeah, we're gonna release it here. And the next we almost did actually like Monday, but I was changing some spelling on the website. Honestly, Bo was gonna release it a couple of days ago. But it's done. Yeah, like we have all the contracts set up for it. We have the business side set up for it. We're accepting orders for crypto cards. We have the systems all set up for the crypto cards. It's pretty awesome. It's honestly pretty cool.
It's really sick. Yeah, it really is. Like one of our main goals too is like, I don't know, like we see businesses that accept crypto in like super weird ways, or like what Silas is talking about. It's like, okay, you accept crypto, but really the payment processor is just like a giant fiat bank account. And then they're just giving the business fiat and then selling the crypto on like a centralized exchange. It's like, that's not cool, right? And then the businesses that do accept crypto to crypto, it's like the most non-efficient way ever. It's like, okay, I'm not going to be in line at a coffee shop and like, oh, let me pull my MetaMask out and like scan your QR code and then sit there for like 5 minutes while there's 10 people behind me signing a transaction. It's like,
and the guy behind them then sees like how much is in your wallet.
Yeah, it's just not sustainable. And it's not like, I would never do that. I would never go and like scan somebody's like QR code in my MetaMask and like sit there, and then I gotta like talk to the business, and then like it will never ever work in a real world situation unless you're at like a desk buying a car and you have like 30 minutes to sit there and figure it out and everyone can verify everything. And that's exactly what we set out to fix. And like that's the point of the card too, is like, yeah, we talk about the card, it can be physical, but it can also be digital, right? Like it could be like an Apple Wallet thing. Like all you're doing there is your wallet is identified by a QR code, and we have that set up to automatically spin at businesses. So there's no more like standing in line, sitting there and like having to sign transactions or like plug in amounts by yourself. So they just scan, business goes like agree and you're out, like you're gone. You got your coffee, you have your Lambo, whatever it is, like boom, quick.
That is the other cool thing about it, right? Is it's all on chain. So there is no like, hey, yep, you can't spend your funds at this business, right? We don't have a stake to spend. We don't have anything like that. It is a completely open system. People can see every single facet of it once we publish our contracts. Like there's nothing hidden in it, right? We're not, we're not inflicting spend limits on users or anything like that, right? So if you wanted to go, buy a Lamborghini with your crypto, that's your prerogative, right? We're not going to sit here and put a spend limit and stop you from spending your crypto at businesses that accept and work with us, right? So that's
Fair enough. I think a few questions that we've answered along the route, but by all means, anyone in the audience, if you think that it hasn't been answered already, I've skipped over a few, but only because I think they've been answered, but I could be wrong. Someone mentioned about, I saw NFT real estate in your roadmaps. Can you elaborate more? I presume they just want a bit of clarity around, is it like a metaverse, or maybe just to answer that question if they joined late?
No, it's a. Oh, do you want to talk about it? You can take it.
Sure. Yeah, it's not metaverse. It's not virtual. It's physical real estate. Real estate was one of the original industries that we started in, and we found immense value in implementing tokenization, and then also now talking about payment processing for these large transactions using crypto. So, we've wrote a lot of kind of like TA, like technical analysis on it. But it's going to be one of the latter things that we actually come out public with, just because there's so much, bureaucratic red tape that is stopping our system from joining the current system. But no, it's not virtual. Basically, it's going to be a way where people can buy and sell houses as NFTs, but in a more decentralized way. Like you look at, you look at companies out there right now that sell physical real estate as NFTs. It doesn't mean anything. Like really go look at the systems that they're using, and all they're doing is they're tokenizing something, but they're not tokenizing like the actual ownership rights of the house, right? They're not tokenizing the documents. All they're doing is transacting on blockchain. So it just defeats the purpose of like these, actual tokenization and ownership. And that's what we want to fix with our system. So, we have a lot written about that in different places. But in terms of like, I'm not going to go into the exact detail, but that is the concept right there of our system.
Yeah, and it might seem kind of like it seems like it might seem kind of crazy, the stuff that we have going on, right? And like why do we have all of this stuff? Like why do we have NFTs here, real estate here, and the blockchain commerce? While I can only see like a tiny piece of myself, so I can't see me waving my hands around, but like way over here, right? But in reality, it's all very, very intertwined on the blockchain in the tokenization side of things, right? So the way that I like to say it is, the first thing that we built was this marketplace app, right? And like, why did we build an NFT marketplace? Well, because you can represent anything as an NFT, right? What do we need, right? We needed a way to transfer NFTs securely and safely, right, between users, right? And we needed a way to index Ethereum to get the data into our system. That's what the NFT marketplace does, right? Now we're building this blockchain commerce piece, and it's going to sit on top of the NFT underlying infrastructure that we built with the marketplace. It's going to be tier 2, and initially it's not going to involve NFTs, but we're actually rolling out with something. I'm not going to get into it now, but it's going to involve NFTs in a very, very cool way. The music is a small evolution on the standard NFT, right? We could treat it as a normal NFT, but in reality, we're going to actually extend the NFTs just a little bit. And so it's going to be a big thing that's going to plug into our wallet with licensing. It's going to be used everywhere else throughout our ecosystem, right? And then sitting on top, the final thing that we want to build on top of our marketplace is this idea of physical good tokenization and real world tokenization. And real estate is a thing that we start with, right? Which is why you see the NFT, you see real estate, not just physical good tokenization, right? But real estate is what we're starting with. So that's kind of how our ecosystem plugs together. And then the reason why we're starting with real estate is because we feel like that's probably the most salient physical good tokenization. It also makes the most sense, right? Like when we started this podcast, I was like, it doesn't make any sense to tokenize a cup of coffee. And I stand by that, right? Like there's no reason to do that, right? But when we start tokenizing physical goods, right? If you can link the ownership of real estate to an NFT, you can do things like a decentralized crowdfunded mortgage, right? Right now, you want to get a mortgage, you're gonna, at least in the U.S., right? A good interest rate's like 4.9, 5.1 with what the Fed's doing, which is crazy, and that's still good compared to a lot of places in the world, which is crazy, right? But if we get into a system where we're saying, oh, the ownership of this NFT of this house is linked to this NFT, right? You can then do things like decentralized mortgages, right? Which would just be so much better for everyone, because mortgages now become a competitive, they're competitive in the market. You can get lower rates, right? Maybe a group is happy with a 2% interest rate, right? Like there's a lot of really cool things that you can do. That was kind of my tangent on why we're building in this potentially weird structured building shape, and then why we're targeting real estate as the first one.
Fair enough. We're out of questions, so almost up to the hour mark. But yeah, so the final question is, when are we getting the band back together?
ASAP.
I can. We could do like an album cover where I like look here. And then you can like face me, and then you face the other way, and you have your back to the wall like this, like back to the thing, like.
I like that. I like that.
I do like
Oh, we
that.
can do like a
Like walking across the sidewalk. I don't know. There's plenty of options, you know. As long as
There's a lot of options. World's our oyster.
yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Definitely learned a lot. For the audience, if you want to check out more, just go to spume.io. We're going to be working closely with the guys on a few topics over the course of end of this year, next year. So going to be a lot of updates. But yeah, great to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe below. And until next Wednesday, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, thanks so much for having us, man. It was a good time.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.
Okay.
See you
Boy,
later.